Hi, and welcome back to another Tech Talk. I'm Stan Boynick with Sierra-Olympia Technologies. Today we're going to be talking about the role of infrared sensors in wildlife management, looking at things like animal behavior, habitats, and population monitoring. These IR sensors in front of me are from our Vayu HD family of infrared cameras. The Vayu HD features a 1920 by 1200 pixel resolution, making it the first full HD infrared sensor available on the commercial market. On my right, we've got the Vayu HD, which is the lightweight open frame version. This version of the camera is intended for integration into things like gimbals or other applications that require a small, compact, lightweight design. On the left, we've got our Vayu HD-I for industrial. This unit is enclosed and ruggedized and has the IP54 ingress rating, so this can be used directly in an outdoor environment. Both variants of the Vayu HD have found applications down in Australia and New Zealand in wildlife management. We sat down with Bruce Warburton of Landcare Research to find out how Landcare is using the cameras in their work.
My focus is on New Zealand's invasive mammals. So we've got a range of introduced species. Some of them are more invasive than others, and some of them are clearly seen as pests, where some of them are valued. So we've got elk and white-tailed deer. They were introduced to New Zealand, and the conservationists see them as a pest, but hunters see them as a resource. So there's a bit of tension in New Zealand around how some of these introduced species are viewed. I first got involved with thermal cameras in about 2015. Most wild animals in New Zealand anyway are undercover, and so there's always the challenge of where are they and how many are there. So it's a detection probability challenge. And thermal cameras are always seen and still are as a way of better detection, improving your detection, getting more robust information about the abundance or numbers of animals that might be in an area. Well, the previous cameras we'd use were around about 1080, I think, 750 or something. And if you're trying to keep costs down, you try and fly higher with a wider swath. So you're covering more country, for any sort of flight line that you fly. But the higher you get with your resolution, you start losing the ability to differentiate what that species is. You just see something hot, and a wallaby might look like a European hare that was also introduced, or it might be a sheep or whatever, because you just see this black blob in amongst some vegetation. So if you're trying to minimize cost, fly at a higher altitude and get a wider swath, then the higher resolution sensor you've got, the better. So, and the Vayu HD then anyway, when we purchased it, was the highest resolution camera on the market that we could find. So we thought, let's go with this. And we essentially bought the camera for a specific project, and that was to monitor wallaby abundance before a control operation and then after the control operation. So this is doing our pre and post. So this is a pre. So you can see a wallaby there.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
So, yeah.
Oh, look at it just run around.
And then there's a whole lot more. So we had a number of fixed transects. They were 1 kilometre long, and we just flew them several times pre-control and then several times post-control. And then we just post-process the images. And because you're post-processing, you want to be able to identify the species on the screen. And because you're recording video, often a species can be identified by its gait, by the way it moves. So that's helpful. But with a higher resolution camera, you can, it's like looking at you or me. You can tell I'm a human. So, well, I think I am. So really try and get a good understanding of how that technology can actually help. Don't get sold just on the technology. What's it actually going to provide? Also be very open and learn about what the limitations are and the constraints, and talk to people who have used it. There's pros and cons, and there's places to use this technology and places not to use it.